Deal.
All right, let's find a scribe and a person willing to report out. The hardest part of the conversation. I can't see everybody, so I don't know who to pick on. I mean, in theory, it's supposed to be a COAC member that reports out, but if someone wants to trump that, I'm always willing. Maybe Terrence should report out. Michael, didn't you report out last time?
Yes, sir.
I seen that coming, Bill.
What about
Terrence looks prime for the role.
Yeah. I will report out if that's what y'all want.
You already primed, right? And have been serving it up. So
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
all right, should we tackle this question? What suggestions can you offer for pipeline building and marketing around the I-5 Rose Quarter workforce opportunities to best serve the historic albino and BIPOC community? That's a long sentence, long question. We don't always stick to the question, just so you know, either. If you got other pressing things you'd like to ask relative to the information, that's fair game also. Katrina?
Sorry, I can't figure out how to put my hand up, so thank you. I think one of the biggest things from my perspective is now that we've reviewed those numbers and you know what the needs are, if you put those numbers out there into the community and with the deadline or the target dates of when people are going to physically be called to work, then the programs can ramp up and be ready for that. To me,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the very next step. We just define the hours, define the numbers of individuals by craft, and then we can go specifically to organizations that create the results, basically.
Yeah, and I would say when you say go specifically to organizations, maybe it could be put on the website or something so that people that are monitoring the project can see that and know what the timelines are going to be as well, so that if they are not in the chosen primary contacts or whatever you want to call them, if they're not the people that are selected to be rolled out, then other folks can know, contractors can know, not just necessarily the community organizations.
I would think that we would do that automatically, and I think that between Jennifer and I and Terrence and probably another Terrence, that we're going to be able to cover everybody face to face individually, as well as put the information out there on either social media platforms, the website. I think, and then I think when you see the numbers also, I think that the numbers will, the next round of an analysis that gets to number of bodies per year per craft, and then further broken down between journey level and apprenticeship. I think that once we get to those subsets of numbers, I think that's what leads me to be more precise about where we go with it. We put it out there broad so that we're not eliminating or excluding anyone, but then at the same time we have to be very intentional about getting the results, making sure we're going to the right place to get the results.
Yeah, and if I can add something around the marketing piece, I realize that this is an expensive idea, but I think hiring somebody that's got the social science to understand what marketing, when you say social media, is, making sure that we are working with the community to make sure that if it's not just Facebook, and Instagram and stuff like that. There's a whole science behind that, and making sure that the message of who you're trying to reach and who you're trying to promote to, that these are popping up on whatever social media platform, their games that they're doing, their Roku's, and all of that. There's a science. And so if you look at the demographics that you're trying to get to, and then you figure out what they're doing and where they're at, and then putting your message in front of them.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to dominate. I'll be quiet now.
No. I mean, that's right on point. It's not my area of expertise, but it's been Amber's, and we have another individual on our team, D'Angelo, that's been working with Amber's team to really define those platforms.
So Katrina, I mean, I'll let if Bill wants other people to go, but I do want to circle back with you and like kind of pick your brain a little bit more about what you're seeing in terms of the social media, because we definitely plan. I think either you were the one that raised this, or a couple different people had raised this, and so we wanted to make sure that we pick your brain on this, because you're exactly right. And Joseph and Katie, Katie is in this meeting. She's the brilliance and understands the science behind some of this, blah, 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 not me, but she works for me. So if you, Bill, if you want to go to other folks, and then we can come back around to Katrina, because I would love to hear more about her thoughts.
Great, Christine.
I think James was before me and I'm after James.
I'm
So,
sorry.
I talk a lot. So Christine, you go ahead. I always run my mouth. So I'd like to hear what you got to say. And then okay.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, I guess I'm not sure because when I think about pipeline building, you're looking at recruitment, right, for workers in the craft. So are you, like, I think about going out to the community, having, the summertime is ripe for community events. I was thinking going out into the community, having a table there, reaching out with all the things that you're saying before, how many people you need, what positions and so on. And also having just, events within the community, also in general, in certain parts of the community that you want to reach, or schools, let's say. So I wasn't sure if you are putting those things towards the workforce training organizations, the workforce organizations like you mentioned, like the tradeswomen and POIC and some of the others. Are you expecting them to do this versus you? So I wasn't sure about that, because like I said, this summer is really ripe into hiring some of the younger folks to get into apprenticeships. Thank you.
Terrence.
Yeah, yes. So you're absolutely correct. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Even though I'm working with these organizations, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, because they're already doing that work. What I'm trying to do, me specifically, is I'm reaching into the part of the community that isn't quite working with those organizations yet. So yes, ma'am, I plan on, especially when school going, one of the things I want to do is build relationship with high schools. I mean, if this project is 5 years, we can really get into high schools and start dealing with those young people. And by even if they're a year off, they still can apprentice, journeyman out, and all those type of things. So absolutely, I'm definitely in every aspect trying to communicate with the community. And all the places I'm already a social justice reform person. I'm already dealing with the community with criminal justice reform. I have a specific love in my heart for that aspect of the community. And so I'm definitely in the trenches already, talking with them, building them up, encouraging them, using all the platforms that I have. And yes, ma'am, as soon as parks is going and all those types of events is happening, our team will be a part of that. We will let the community know the opportunity that's here. All the BIPOC community will do our best. And if you got recommendations, you just let me know and I get there too.
Thank you.
Michael, James, I'll let you two slug it out on, I ain't gonna,
No, Michael always contradicts everything I say, so I'll let him go
if
first.
he goes first, yeah.
He go ahead and say.
I didn't hear that. I do what, James?
Oh, get all funny, man. Y'all are
Oh.
funny.
So I didn't hear that, but it's all good. So the question is, what suggestions do we have? But Terrence, you sound like you've been, plenty of places and met plenty of folks. I have a couple of things to say about that. One is, I talked about that 10-year study a while back, right? Where we lost 60% of our first year and a half apprentices. And it wasn't because the work was too hard, right? It wasn't because they couldn't do the work. They were run off the job. But this was all apprentices, but you know for a fact that within those numbers, the larger percentage of a specific population was African Americans. They weren't welcome. They got treated poorly. They felt like they were disrespected and they left. And sometimes they wouldn't even tell you why they were leaving, they just disappeared. So what that has generated in us is a desire to create some curriculum around positive job site culture, which will keep people when they show up, how they're greeted, how they're made to feel welcome, all that stuff, and it's across the board. So I just wanted to say that. Marketing is one of those things that took us quite a few years to get a handle on where it needed to go, who it needed to go to, and what that message needed to look like. That Black Portland PDX, somebody put a flyer on there for construction workers, and they got I think they got 2,000 hits in the first hour. So there are places that folks who specialize in that stuff, they know where to go with. They know how to target folks. So hopefully you're reaching out to them. And I would say around these pre-apprenticeship programs, the way we gained a foothold was by getting on the boards. I'm not saying this is all the stuff you need to do, but we got on the boards, right? And then we did mock interviews and we did presentations in their classes. So these programs turn out students every 10 weeks or so, roughly every 10 weeks. So if someone was showing up in those classrooms and they're talking about what scopes of work you have available, and you have openings for them if they say graduate tier 1, because there's tiers, I believe, at Constructing Hope. Now, if they graduate tier 1, that means they're ready to go to work. And if you show up with some curriculum specific to other than carpenter and labor, if you have a specific requirement, they can take that curriculum, prepare that individual to go to work for you. So those are just a couple of ideas I have. Oh, one more. Have you been talking to people who are already doing this work in the community, or are you just creating the reel?
No, so a few things. One, you're absolutely right. We want to focus on retention. We know that young Black men, we losing them along the way. So I am definitely honed in on that. And again, the more I get time to work, I do weekly check-ins with the 7 people we've got hired. I do weekly check-ins with them. I work with upper management as well as foremen to ensure that they treat it well. And when we run into problems so far, we've been able to navigate them in a healthy way. This is all talk. I mean, all not talk. This is the work I'm doing right now, big brother. I'm literally doing that work today. Once a week, I'm checking in with 7 individuals to make sure that they're getting treated kindly, fairly, and that upper management of these companies is not mishandling our people. Period.
Terrence, can you hear me, T?
Absolutely.
I just want to interject just a little bit. I've been listening the whole time. This is Webb Moreland, by the way. So Mr. Mike, so when you're talking about retention and you're talking about other projects, it's got to be evident where you see that this is a complete difference, right? So the people that's talking, like Terrence, like Bill, like myself, Jeff Sr., that's leading the conversations, are the ones that are also controlling the environments too. So when we talk about retention, this is completely different than any other probably place, because a lot of the what we call PCR, positive cultural representation, is not there in a lot of other companies, right? So it's very hard for someone of color to go into a company where it's 98, 95, 96% of non-people of color to survive, right? Because positive culture, because their culture is not a representation and leadership, right? So no one can actually preserve them or help save them, right? And it doesn't just mean people of color, but it's also like-minded people that understand that there is a difference to connect those dots for retention. So like Terrence is saying, the people that are talking and speaking that you see now are the people that are helping control that environment. That's why we do have a high retention at Raymore Construction. Like, people are trying to, we have people on the waiting list sometimes because we just can't give everybody the opportunity. So there will be a big difference, and I can assure that, just like T can. Just wanted to add that in there before you keep going. Terrence, you're doing a good job, man. You're doing a good job.
Time out. Hold on. But my comments are not addressed to Raymore Construction. This is about the industry, right? Though that 10-year study wasn't Raymore. So I have nothing but high hopes for Raymore.
Right.
I think if you recall the last meeting, we didn't get nothing in edgewise because Posey was talking about how great you are. So I'm all in favor of what you say you're doing and what you've done historically. So my suggestions were in general, right? How we get in the door. So thank you.
But Mr. Birch, also, I mean, I don't think no one, maybe I am a little bit younger than the industry, but I don't think no company of our magnitude has ever been in this position to help control the environment, right, of this magnitude. So I'm using us as a case study because we'll have a big portion of that control, right, creative rights, to make sure there is something coming from it, if that makes sense. I'm just using Raymore as a case study because we're going to take that in a small sample and bring that over to this project, which we are controlling a bigger dollar amount. That's all I was saying. So I do hear you.
I agree. You will be the standard going forward.
And so, Mr. Birch, I am already, every time Constructing Hope is doing graduating classes, I'm already doing closeout with them. So about every, 3 weeks, I think, about every third or fourth Thursday, I'm already in those classes. I'm big up in the work we're doing and encouraging them young brothers and sisters as well as ex-cons to get in this industry. So you're absolutely correct. It's a few more people that need to let me in the door, but I'm working. You know what I mean? They're gonna let me in, and I'm gonna continue to press and be present the minute people leave their pre-apprenticeship program, just encouraging them and reminding them that they can be excellent and great in this space. But I take everything you said and I'm going to continue to apply it.
James.
Yeah, hey, I like everything you guys are saying, but I want to talk about working outside the box a little bit, because I think we're at a time where we need to think differently and use the same tools that everybody else out here, private sector use. When there is a deficit or there is a critical thing that needs to get done, then they incentivize the outcome. And I'm suggesting to you all, and I'm gonna speak, is Brad still on here? Brad Sullivan still on here? Yeah, I want to talk to the guys who are out here for a while, who have certain capacities. And let me just give you an example of what I'm talking about. When Terrence talks about trust in a community, then you just don't talk about building trust. You actually have to operationalize that. And many institutions in the Black community are hurting. Churches, schools, etc. They're hurting. And I envision, an outfit like Hamilton Son going in, making an evaluation, maybe putting some teams together, utilizing these community-based organizations to put crews together to do landscaping, or work with some of the senior organizations to do some work on senior people's homes, trying to demonstrate the capacity to work with a community to actually put some real substance in building community. And at the same time, back in the day, we used to have some young crews in the summertime actually cutting lawns and doing lawn care work and working on lawnmowers and marketing that whole concept. I'm talking about building teams in the community that builds trust with some of those old grandmas and grandpas that Terrence is talking about, which becomes a networking vehicle to demonstrate that we're more than just about coming in here and making money and moving on, but actually cleaning up our community, making it more efficient, making our young people and our seniors more aligned with the goals of having a greater community, not just for Blacks, but just generally speaking, having a good community. My point is that there's enough skill activity in those kinds of things, fixing a toilet or fixing a lawnmower or moving a piece of equipment or any of those kind of things that you do mechanically within the scope of building a community that are happening day by day. So I'm suggesting that you all think about incentivizing some of these community-based organizations, i.e. the Constructing Hope. You know, those people, before they get into Constructing Hope, they have to screen those folk, and there may be a pre-apprenticeship, if you all get what I mean, that could be used by high school students or people coming out of Allen Temple Church over there that had that big problem. So I'm saying we got to go a little deeper into the community to build this trust and show that we are willing to do things that are not necessarily associated to this project. I don't know if you all understand what I'm talking about. Does that make any sense, Brad?
Well, I think I hear you, James, and I think it's a great idea. It's just a matter of how we put it together and make it work. And I'd like to hear more from you at some point in time as to how we might be able to set something up. Because I've often thought about, just having workshops within the industry to where people could come out and work with their hands on a makeshift job site that's set up might be a good tool and avenue to do something like that. But some of the ideas you're expressing is another way to do it. So it's just a matter of how we set it up.
Well, it's been done before, Brad. I'm gonna tell you, way back in the day, they've done this before. In fact, I had a crew where we had a series of young people who did lawn care business, and it was, they came in, they put a marketing plan together. They actually went door to door to talk to senior people about this stuff. And then within this process, you began to identify who has leadership abilities. You began to identify people who really have a bent toward having a work ethic. And you can kind of pre-screen the young people and really become a pipeline to move them into where Terrence and the pre-apprenticeship programs with Constructing Hope. And listen, it starts with building a database. I mean, we're talking about these people in the abstract, but Terrence knows his cousin knows somebody else's cousin who knows somebody else, and you build a database and you build a system. And Brad, I understand what you're talking about. Brad, you're saying, I don't want to do this, I'm a contractor. Let somebody else do that stuff, And at the end of the day, nobody else is going to do it. But we have enough resources in our community to put something together like that if we do it correctly.
Yeah, and I'm not saying exactly what you said, because I want to try to help. I want to find ways to try to help, James, and
2 minutes.
Good suggestions. We just got to figure out how to put that in place.
2 minutes.
Well, I'll be
honest.
Katrina had her hand up.
2 minutes. Katrina, please
I
go.
want to say really quickly that I see all of Hamilton's workforce results, and they are extremely active in the community as well. And they support a lot of programs And we're here to help facilitate that as well. So if you guys come up with a great idea, something that we're not already doing, we're happy to do it. But I absolutely know that the stuff that you guys are talking about, they are absolutely already doing that. They support Constructing Hope and POIC. They've paid for a grant for POIC as well when they first started getting going. So I think that they are also doing that. So I just was gonna try to circle back to our discussion, but you and I, Amber, can talk about it offline.
Yep, you got it. Cool.